Hello, I'm Chris Walsh. I'm the Chief of Police here in Casper, Wyoming, and I've been asked, along with school district officials, to speak about a very important topic here in our community, and that's the safety of our children and the safety of our schools. Something that we take very seriously, and we work cooperatively very well together so that we can have the safest environment that we can throughout the city. We've been asked where questions have been posed, and we're going to go over a lot of those so that you can get the answers from both the school perspective, from a law enforcement perspective. The first question that has been brought up from the community: what are we doing to keep the schools safe? And from a law enforcement perspective, what we do to keep the schools safe is we've got 2 dedicated officers that move in and around the schools, our school resource officers. In addition to that, every officer that we've got on the street has to, at some point throughout the entire school year, walk through every school in the district. The nice thing about that is the officer gets familiar with the inside layout of the building. Staff, administrators, students get to see a wide range of different police officers outside the normal school resource officer, and they're there at random times. So if a person were to try and select an opportunity when there might not be an officer at a school, it just can't be done, because they're in and out of them all throughout the school day and throughout the entire school year. We work with the school district on a lot of different areas, and we'll go into them a little bit more in depth, but oftentimes you'll see Casper police officers with a very heavy presence throughout the week, before and after schools, and during the school hours, especially when we anticipate a lot of movement from students. And we're doing 2 things. We're focusing on traffic safety so that nobody gets hurt walking in and around the schools, but it also puts our presence right there. And it's very common to find officers parked in or around school parking lots when they're doing report writing, and again, it just enhances that level of presence, and it's random, so it's difficult to make a pattern on where they might be. We do work a lot with the school district on school drills, safety drills, so lockdown type drills. We actually work on active shooter drills together, and while that's an after the fact type issue, it's a cooperative effort that's brought us a lot of really good information so that we can make better security measures on the front end. So I would say that our school security and safety programs overall are very good. We're still analyzing those. We still want to make them the best that they are, so we work to improve them every day. Another question that was posed: who do I contact after hours for a bus-related issue? Very oftentimes, any kind of school questions will come into our emergency dispatch center. Those will all be referred to the school district. So if you call if you have no choice, you can call into our emergency dispatch non-emergency number, and we'll direct you to the right location. And it'll ultimately be the school district that you'll be talking to, and they'll direct you or get you the answers that you need. Some questions about physical security at the school have been raised, and why isn't there protective glass at the front counters of the schools? And my guess is the question is going to be, why isn't there bulletproof type glass at the front of the schools, or some heavy barrier type thing? And a lot of it is the size and volume of our students, but at the end of the day, it's the school district's policy on how they equip those. It goes down to school construction and school maintenance. And remember that our schools were built, some of them a long time ago, before any of this ever even became a concept anyone could imagine. So with those old schools, there has to be some adjustments made, because the school used to be a wide open access point, and now it's not, so they're restricted down. And I know, while I don't know the details, I know the schools are working at their internal security very well. Another question is school resource officers, and can we have more of them? I'm kind of optimistic that we are going to have more of them, and I think actually the state's got some legislation that might provide some state funding to the districts to increase the number of school resource officers. While I haven't seen that bill yet, and I don't know the extent of what it offers, like I said, I'm optimistic that it'll help funding. And the way our school resource officers work, school district actually contributes part of the salaries of the officers from the Casper Police Department that work in the schools full-time, and we would like to increase them. From a police chief standpoint, I'm certain from a school standpoint they would like to increase them too. And if there's any way that we can make that work out, I'll bet you that we'll work hand in hand and increase those numbers of resource officers. A lot of talk recently about armed guards in school. And, you know, school safety, student safety, those things are near and dear to everybody's heart. And you want something to stop that so that no tragedy can ever occur here. And do we put armed guards in the school? I say if we do that, then we do it in the form of a trained police officer. And that way they come with the skills and the training so that they know what to do when a situation turns bad. It's a very, very tough situation to train for and be proficient for. And we want somebody in there, if they're going to be armed, to do more good than harm. So we've got to make sure that they really know what they're doing. I'm hoping that we'll do that through school resource officers at some point. And dovetailing into that, should school employees be allowed to carry guns? And while I'm not opposed to anyone, a responsible person, having a weapon, when you put a responsible person with a weapon into that role of a protector, once again, you have to go through a lot of different layers of training, certifications, qualifications, and you have to make sure that they maintain those skills. It's easy to conceive we grew up in a gun culture and we're all fairly familiar with firearms. Now you put that into a crowd of people and a lot of chaos, it changes from maybe what we did when we were out on the prairie with our 22 rifles. So it's a difficult thing and it requires a lot of skill. If that skill were feasible and maintained by well-trained personnel in a school, it wouldn't concern me that much. But again, that would be a school district call. And my preference is certainly an officer that does that training and carries those weapons every day. Locking the schools down. Right now, you can't go up to just any door in our school district and walk into it. They do have restricted access, and to further restrict the access, you know, there's a lot of issues that go into that, and those are made by the school designers and the school administrators. I think we'll probably see that area being looked at, and I can't really answer to it because ultimately it's the school district's question to answer. But security, limited entry, those are all real important points, and we do already have a really good foothold on getting in that direction. Installing intercom systems and surveillance cameras at all entrances, and would that be feasible? And my assumption with the question would be intercoms where you would buzz yourself in, kind of like we see at different buildings, where you would announce who you were and then come in. And you know, those, you've got monitored and unmonitored checkpoints where you do that. Actually, the best way to do it is actually have a person physically there checking an ID and allowing somebody to come in, as opposed to maybe holding up some form of photo ID and announcing who you might be to a camera and an intercom system. Good security measures, expensive of course, and then you have to staff them with personnel that be able to monitor them all the time. So once again, it would be a school district, and ultimately it'd be a public decision that had to be made, because there would have to be quite a bit of funding geared towards that, and that funding comes from all of us. So a conversation that won't be overlooked and will probably be addressed at some point. As to what happens at a lockdown, a lot of the internal things that happen at a lockdown have to come from school district personnel, but in general, a lockdown concept is when there's a threat perceived, the school's put into lockdown, or maybe all the schools in the district, depending on what it is, and access is stopped. Any students out in common areas are brought into secure areas, secure classrooms, and the idea being that there's limited people out moving around, and you restricted movement and access for anybody that might be there to do them some harm. The school district has a few different layers of lockdowns, and I'll let them address them specifically. But as from a police department's perspective, and I know this has caused some questions in the past in the public, whenever I have a situation going on anywhere around a school, I'll notify that school and I'll recommend a lockdown. And the reason is I don't want anything, whether it's, if I have a dangerous situation that doesn't have anything to do with the school at that moment, but it's near a school, I don't want it to move into the school where a person might try and seek sanctuary. So I'll call the school, I'll ask them to lock down, and they'll go into certain different levels from there. Sometimes it'll just be an exterior lockdown where nobody can access the building. And a lot of times that's what I'm looking for. And those are short duration until we can make sure that there's no danger to the schools. When that happens, as a parent, and I'm a parent of a school-age child myself, you want to get your kid, you want to get in there and make them safe. At that time, we're doing everything we can to make them safe. The school district's doing everything they can to make them safe, and information can never flow fast enough, not when you're dealing with the safety of your child. But it is going out as fast as we can get it out, and I know that the district does an excellent job with their mass paging system, and it notifies everybody as quick as they can get the information out to them. On the frequency of lockdowns in the schools, I don't know how frequently the school district does that at each school. I know that each school is well versed in it. I know that it's a common thing, and the methods and use of that we've learned and worked together and refined quite a bit over the years with our drills, and just exactly what type of lockdowns do we need and best practices. When we go through a joint drill, we'll give ourselves a pretty critical eye and see what we should have done better, and through that we learn a lot of lessons, and each time we make that response a little bit better. New security, safe schools and new construction, and what are we doing on those things? I can tell you that whenever the school district constructs a new school, they typically contact me or a member of the police department staff and have us go through and make any recommendations that we would see on building security, that enhancements that might provide better safety. And a lot of that is, there's a trade-off between a learning environment and a strict lockdown high security environment. And a high security environment from a police officer's perspective, how can I make you safe? It's going to look like a prison. Might not be the best learning environment, so there's a trade-off between the two. And I know that working with the school district, we've developed a standard numbering method for all the doors, all the entryways, all the hallways, stairways, and building classrooms, so that we all know the sequence that the entries are numbered no matter what school we go to. And it makes it easier for us to find a proper location at a school. Also standardizes how doors are numbered, and is door number 1 always going to be in the same place, and is door number 2 always going to be in the next sequence from it? Now they are. So we've done that as a retrofit, if you will, to some of the older buildings, and in the new buildings the district's always brought us in, and we have people go through and take a look at it. What is being done to ensure the safety at school district-sponsored extracurricular activities? So whenever we have big events, draw a lot of people, we'll put extra police officers out working overtime where they're dedicated just to that event. What that means is they're not going to be called away to a radio call that might be coming in the area, and they'll be at that location. Again, that's a cooperative effort between us and the school district, and we've been doing that for quite some time. On some of this, what's a parent's role in school safety? Parents have a tremendous role in school safety. Maybe the biggest role, if you think about it, because parents get to see the kids all the time. They get to see who the kids' friends are and what they're doing and how they're feeling. So don't be afraid to ask them questions. If you're disturbed, even maybe by your son's, daughter's activity, or maybe their friends, don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to get in the middle of it. And I know the school has resources out there that can offer all kinds of help to a child that might not be having a good experience in school, and they might be internalizing a lot of anger or something like that. I think parents are the first line and the best line of defense for us. So look for signs that the kids that the kids in your friend's circle are not doing well, that they're having trouble, because none of these things happen in a vacuum. There's always warning signs. It's real easy for us to always rationalize them, or maybe we don't want to get involved or something like that. But if you hear a child talking about somebody that's acting out of place, that's concerning them, or a lot of rage or hostility, say something. Notify the school officials at that school, and they've got resources there where they can make an intervention. It's so much better to get in front of something that might be a tragic situation than to respond to it. And you know, in police work, we're largely reactive. We answer the call. Now, if you notice something like that and you want to tell us about it, we'll seek out those same resources and we can help facilitate that. But family, friends, students, absolutely the best line of defense is those people, because you're working and talking and dealing with all the individuals that are in your school. You know who might be having a rough time and who might not be having a rough time. So getting them the help they need is going to be the best step that we can take. You know, oftentimes whenever anything happens in the city, the absolute first contact or indication that you've got comes from Facebook or social media or something like that. And I caution you to view all that information with a little bit of a calloused eye and not be real quick to believe everything that you see. Not saying that all of it's false, but the issue is a lot of it is just rumors, and the rumors start flying, and with the speed at the internet, they can just sweep and they can go out of control like wildfire and actually create a terror that's not necessary. Look for the official sites, seek out information from the school district, from the police department. And I know that on some high profile incidents that we've been involved in the last several months, a lot of the information that's going through the social media is completely false, and it's really inflammatory. It makes things seem a lot worse than they are. And so be cautious when you read something on there, or even if you decide to pass it on to somebody, because it might not be accurate. There's no standardization, there's no requirements on what can be posted on there, so it could just be adding to the fervor of things. Seek out that official information from the sources that can give you accurate details and not just the supposition of what's going on. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to address some of these questions, and certainly as things progress, more will come up and more will come up. And one way to reach out to us is the police department has a Facebook page, Casper Police Department. We also have a website where you can get on there. You can send emails to police@cityofcasperwy.com. You can make messages on the Facebook page. There's always the Crime Stoppers tip line if you want to leave an anonymous tip. And then there's always face-to-face interaction. So if you want to contact and call the police department, our non-emergency number is 235-8278. And that's manned 24 hours a day, so you'll be able to reach us. Don't be afraid. Don't be concerned that you're wasting our time with something that seems insignificant. If you have a tip, if you have something that you want us to know about, if you're uncomfortable about things that are going on, reach out through one of those mechanisms and you'll get a response from us. And these things are going to continue to be hot topics. There's no way around it. We aren't going to run from it. The school district isn't going to run from it. We're going to continue to make the safest environment that we possibly can. So we'll keep working together in order to achieve that. And a lot of times just asking the questions will sometimes alleviate some concerns from people. So don't be afraid to give us a call.